Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. I'm Natalie Sportelli. I have the longest title here because I'm actually on sabbatical, so it could be anything. But I formerly was at Thingtesting, which is a product review and discovery platform, which a lot of your brands are on, and also in VC at Lear Hippo and at Forbes. So I'm really excited about this panel because I think we all know this is kind of a weird time. We're going to get our crystal balls out and talk about what trends we're all seeing. I think to start, though, let's just go down the line, and if you can do a quick intro on yourself and your company, that would be a good way to get going. Nick?
Hi, I'm Nick Bodkins, the co-founder and CEO at Boisson. We're the, I guess now, the largest non-alcoholic focused specialty retailer in the world. We sell online and in physical stores, and then we've now recently expanded our offering to include on-premise distribution and wholesale into other off-premise retailers.
Great. Nice to meet everyone. I'm Mark. I'm the CEO of Hue. We make chocolate, crackers, cookies. We're probably like the least digital product here. We used to have a restaurant, which is even more physical than chocolate bars in Union Square, but that unfortunately closed with the pandemic. So we are fastest growing, better for you natural chocolate brand in the US, and we were acquired by Mondelez about 2 years ago.
Hi everyone, I'm Lindy Crea. I'm VP of Partnerships at Recharge Payments. We help you turn your one-time shoppers into repeat customers who buy more and buy more frequently.
Hi, I'm Emily Onkey, co-founder of Aplos, which is a functional non-alcoholic spirits company. So I know that guy pretty well. But we really wanted to create something in the non-alc space that feels sophisticated and elevated, and something you're really proud to order at a bar or have sitting on your bar at home or gift to friends. So lots to say there.
Awesome. Well, I think this is a great panel because we have people in different areas thinking about different things. So I'd love to just kick off with what trends are you thinking about, like what's coming up in conversations, and what's keeping you up at night right now? Lindy, you're smiling a bit.
Oh, sure. I mean, the conversation that we have just very naturally with our customers, brands and merchants, is around retention. I think nobody's surprised that acquisition has increased in cost so substantially that there's a big focus on making sure that we are retaining customers, giving them the experiences that they want, and then continually tailoring their journey, their experience, and our products to what they need in order to keep them, as opposed to as we heard from an earlier panel, I think being able to spend on Facebook in order to continually acquire customers is no longer a paradigm that we can count on.
When I first started buying ads on Facebook, I was at Tough Mudder in 2012, and it was like $2.25 to buy a fan, and then you got to talk to all of them, like all 100%. I was like, you like send a message, and like 3 million people read it, and you're like, this is the most effective thing ever. And then they went public, and it was like, never mind. Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, I don't know if keeping me up at night is, but I think it's interesting to see kind of the chatter around just changes in drinking behavior. And I think what gets a lot of attention are changes with Gen Z and millennials. But I think for us being in this category for a few years now, I actually feel like that's not the point to me that is the most fascinating. And I think to me, what we're really seeing with our customers is where it really resonates is people with whom there's a bit of a tension, and we've really understood how unique everyone's relationship with alcohol is and how that's changing. So where we're really resonating, what we see, and what I think is like super fascinating and trend-wise, are what that internal dialogue is like for people, and how can we give them something that makes them feel, that takes away some of the internal friction that they feel around alcohol. If it's I'm not going to drink tonight, and then I did. So if it's a willpower thing or an in the moment or a hangover or any of that, we're seeing so many different reasons that people come to our brand.
Yeah, like I think, like I've worked in a lot of I hate the word, but I worked on a lot of disruptive brands, but a lot of them are like, oh, we're disrupting the $1 billion XYZ niche industry. And it's really weird to think about the art of the possible when you're actually talking about a $1.5 trillion industry, which is how much people spend on drinks that they put in their bodies around the world. And so it's an opportunity, but it's also the finding the why for people is it's really expensive to educate very early on.
Yeah.
It's why we actually did physical retail from day one. And it's specifically because like you're probably all like a lot of you are probably thinking like, is this just for sober people? Like 90% of our customers drink. I think Aplos is pretty
87% of our customers.
like pretty close.
I drink.
And like I think that is actually like it's the like trend is like a weird word for me because like we get that from investors a lot when we talk to them is like, oh, is this a trend?
Yeah.
And like as cliche as it is to say, like Emily and I have talked about this a lot, like it feels a little bit like when the iPad came out and people are like, I have a phone and I have a computer, what in the hell do I need this thing in the middle for? And then it just existed. And then you're like, oh, like of course there is this whole other category of things that should exist. Like because of the screen size, because of the form factor, because of the ease of use. And so like it wasn't a trend. Like I don't think anybody's gonna call the iPad a trend now. It's just it's a new category. Like it's a completely new category, which is hard to build. Like it takes a long time.
Mark?
Yeah, I would say to answer in a slightly different way, I think I'd spent the last 12 years in health and wellness, like better for you food. And the interest in better for you or healthier living tends, my observation is it tends to be aligned with economic good times. And then when you're facing into economic headwinds, there's been like a resurgence of interest in like indulgence. Doesn't necessarily mean bad for you, but maybe less good for you is a nicer way to put it. Like I think there was a gigantic surge of interest in plant-based and in, the ketogenic diet, paleo diet. And just in the last 2 years, and specifically in the last year, there's been a huge rise in just like cookies made with butter and sugar, and just like more nostalgic return. And this was spurred by the pandemic, but it's lasted long through the pandemic of like, how do you give people triple stuff Oreos and quadruple stuff Oreos, right? Like, I think it's been interesting because while I've also observed, myself included, a trend away from alcohol, which you could argue, or at least a trend of including things other than alcohol in a weekly consumption pattern, which I think is a trend towards healthier in some ways. I think in food, we're seeing more and more like junk food creep back in, which has been interesting.
Yeah, this is so interesting because you really kind of don't want to create a trendy brand, right? You want to create a brand that lasts and builds over time and becomes like a household name. So on that topic, and Lindy, kind of inspired by your answer, how are you thinking about or seeing trends around retention and how sticky customers are right now, especially maybe in like something that could be seasonal or top of mind during different points of the year? Nick, do you want to start?
Yeah, so I spent a number of years in like single brand, almost single SKU companies. And one of the most incredibly like jarring things for me is like we sell 125 brands. But our customers don't buy one brand when they come to us, right? Like not to toot the horn of Aplos over here, but like it is probably one of the most indicative brands for us that a customer is going to be enduring for us. Like when we look at that sort of like SKU level data of where customers are coming back, but like the first order they buy 4 brands, and the second order they buy 6 brands. And for us, like it is part of the reason why we exist. So my wife was going through IVF. She looked at me one night, like second round of IVF, and was like, I need a Negroni so bad. And I was like, okay, I'm going to solve this. And like, cynical marketer in me, I'm like, best NA gins. And then like I find Wirecutter's best NA gins, and they all happen to have affiliate links to like, wherever they are. And I'm like, okay, like cynical marketer in me, like, how am I going to like figure this out? And what I found was like this really disjointed, already mature D2C motion of like, you need to buy this from this company, you need to buy this from this company, and you need to buy this third one. It's 3 boxes and 3. Like as a consumer, just purely as someone like buying this, I was like, this sucks. Like I could go to my liquor store and get all 3 things at once. Why can I not do this together? And so I think for us, like we're on the opposite side of this, which is like CAC for us is like, if you don't like what you bought from us the first time, we want to know about it because we can help you find what you might like across the category the second, the third, the fourth time. So we spend a lot more time looking at commonality between order 1 and order 2 and order 4. Like is it category, is it SKU, is it things like that? but like we're really just trying to solve for that like discovery and education piece, like really early.
Emily, how are you thinking about retention and stickiness for Aplos customers?
Yeah, I mean, retention for us has been kind of our primary KPI since we started. We feel like it's the ultimate indicator of a healthy business, and we are at a luxury price point. We're creating a new category. No one knows what we should cost, and so we need to really deliver. And so for us, we really think of retention internally as how do we really operate as like a 1-star Michelin service. And our sales lead talks about that a lot. And I was like, why 1 star? Why not 3 stars? And her point, which I think is great, is like when you have 1 star, you're impeccable and you're best in class, but you have a lot more to strive for. And so that's kind of the lens through which we view. I think customer service was a big one. Someone mentioned earlier thinking of it as a sales retention driver, and we really try to think of it as a post-purchase marketing role. Like, it's so important. We're a startup. We're going to mess up. We're going to have broken bottles. How do we make it right, and how do we make sure we're driving an emotional connection with our consumers that helps them understand, you know, we're in this together and we're figuring it out and we're growing together. And it's been a lot of relationship building, which, as Nick and I know, is really exciting because we're non-alc, and so alcohol brands have to function in a 3-tier system. We don't have to operate that way, excuse me. And so, you know, in 2 years, we have 60,000 one-on-one relationships, more than the biggest spirits companies can have. And so I think that's something that's really special. And I have a D2C background. My co-founder has a D2C background. It's like, I feel super passionate about that. I love it.
That's awesome. Lindy, I'm interested in your perspective too, having a tech product versus a physical product.
Yeah, I mean, everything that Recharge is doing is to build in those tools to engage with the customer through their journey and really understand who the customer is and where they're at in their journey. So, I mean, with non-alcohol or educating them on non-alcohol, it's sort of understanding where they're at and what you can recommend. So a lot of the tools that we're looking to build are for example, bundles. You might find that somebody likes a certain bundle of alcohol or non-alcoholic products, and you can then propose to them other products or things to go with it, cocktails that go with the gin, that are going to be compelling to them in that bundle, and that helps to keep them engaged, see what the other use cases are. Others are workflows, so really understanding, you know, where they're at in their journey and recommending upsells or cross-sells to include in that, or an additional subscription offering.
Mark, I'm very retained by Hue chocolate personally.
Thank you. Oh my God.
I was like, me too.
Anytime.
I was like 100% retention. Like, there's literally like a stack of them in my right now.
So besides Nick and I, what else do you see retention?
I think the first job that we had to do was figure out what role Hue plays in people's lives, in candy and in chocolate and in treats. You can play a role of like occasional impulse indulgence, or you can be like someone's regular everyday indulgence, and the difference often ends up being price point, and it also ends up being like a love of or distaste of the brand. And so Hue, going back to your trend question, I think Hue, while it started in a world of paleo and, you know, back to basics eating, really, like, I think what has made the brand resonant for a decade is that it's just about simplicity. It's not trend chasing. It's really about clean, super high quality, good tasting dark chocolate with 3 ingredients. And that stayed consistent. So once we figured that out, I think maybe more specifically to answer your question, I don't know if you guys have noticed, inflation has been happening, but there has been tremendous inflation in our category in particular. Like every single one of our competitors has taken price, sometimes 3 or 4 times in the last 2 years. And when you think about what's the role we want to play, we want to be people's everyday indulgence. I think to give you a specific answer to the general question, we decided let's hold price. So we have not taken price a single time on chocolate since before I joined Hue, so almost 5 years ago. And I think that, and we've communicated that and we've been clear about that, and both to our retail partners and to the end customer, which I think gives them a sense of like, loyalty, you know, that goes beyond just the product. So we focused on that because the retention rates or the repeat rates are really high, but, you know, understanding the elasticity of the category you're in is really important too, because it seems high until everyone starts taking price, and then all of the comp repeat rates fell off a cliff.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
One thing that I've been thinking a lot about, and earlier today, obviously, with mention of AI, we're not a vertical SaaS conference here. We're not talking about AI specifically, but I think it's really interesting to think about trends around personalization in AI and different technology that either helps you connect with customers or that customers would be really excited to engage with your company. So are there any cool technologies that you feel like are having an impact on your business or that you're exploring right now? Nick, you're looking at me.
Oh no, I wasn't sure if we're like going.
I mean, I can talk.
Yeah.
We think a lot about personalization. Everything in the subscription experience is really about, again, knowing your customer and knowing where they're at. So again, like with bundles, it's really knowing what is that customer looking for. Are they looking for dark chocolate? And being able to offer them a personalized bundle or curated bundle of that chocolate or of the non-alcoholic offering. But then also personalization for me is really about giving your customers flexibility to tailor to their needs. So we really encourage our merchants to implement as much flexibility in their subscription program as possible. Give that customer access to change, to add, to pause, and to their subscription order. And what we find is that increases the LTV. You know, instead of just saying, okay, I have to cancel this, or I'm not going to join because I don't know how I'm going to get out. Instead, engaging with them and allowing them that flexibility, but also incorporating education into that. And so this sounds like it's probably very important for you, is it gives you an opportunity to really engage with your customer to say, oh, have you been thinking about this? Or, you know, maybe you've been drinking non-alcoholic beverages. Are you noticing these differences? That's something that we see from the collagen brands that we work with. Is oftentimes people will go in to cancel, but they say, oh, okay, well, are you noticing these changes? Because it actually takes a long commitment in order to see the full effects. So just making sure that you're engaging with the customers through that whole process and personalizing it to where they might be with your product.
So prior to founding Boisson, I was at Simon Data for 3 years, and Simon was like preaching like personalization at scale, you know, CDP, like before everyone realized they needed a CDP. And I think like what I'm noticing now is a proliferation of tools that are democratizing the ability to personalize across channels faster. Because I think for us, you know, the homepage hero is like the, you know, it's the holy grail of like, you know, of screen availability. And I know so much about our customers because like we launched with a first party data strategy from like day one. And so like I always tell my team, like, I don't want the like Ryan Howard from The Office woofed of like everything going out in every channel at like the same time. But it's actually like really hard to get right. You know, it's like we have an app, we have SMS, we have email, we have on-site personalization, like we have CX, like we have all these things, all these places where like customers can talk to us or we can find them. And I think like the tools that we're finding that allow for a more unified, like the customer's telling you a lot, even if they're not talking to you. Like what they do, what they actually do means so much. And like these ideas of these like next best actions and like all that other stuff, like that's like table stakes to me now. Like it's really like we know so much about how often and why our customers buy our products that like it almost feels like we're not doing a good enough job for them if we don't focus on like how to give them like more education about what they might want or what they do want, and certainly not just like everywhere all at once. That's really not great.
What are some things that you know, everyone here has like learned about what customers are looking for in physical retail experiences in 2023?
You're probably closest.
Sorry. So I mean, our like my thesis for our stores from day one was three things. The first thing was that we were building a category from scratch, and so education and discovery and like physically, tangibly touching and seeing the ingredients of the products, tasting them was going to be like paramount. The second thing, which is less obvious but incredibly important, is everyone wants it now. And so if you look at where our stores are located in New York City, Upper East, Upper West, West Village, Cobble Hill, Williamsburg, we are able to do 2-hour delivery across all of New York City. We currently do it only for our brands, but like over the next 3 months, we're going to be launching the ability for the brands that we actually work with to do their own D2C same-day fulfillment from our stores. And we see that as being a really important way for customers to be able to do that, because ultimately we actually tend to deliver faster than Amazon does, and a lot of times with better accuracy than Amazon does. And our customers have that experience with us in the store. They learn about new products, they come to tastings. We've tried to make the stores an environment where like a like-minded community can come together. So like we host events, like all sorts of stuff. But they're really there to be really efficient last mile delivery for us. We're even now taking orders that would have otherwise come from our New York and LA warehouses, and we're pushing them out to the stores and then having the last mile happen via DoorDash from the stores, so that rather than getting like this impersonal brown box, you're actually getting like a Boisson bag with like a nice note card and everything else. And it's actually less expensive than UPS. It's really flipping hard to do. Shout out to the NetSuite team for finally like making that happen for us. It's been insane. I can't believe I just shouted out NetSuite, but like that is like, it's legitimately been like a really important part, but like it's difficult to do something that looks so simple. And like, it's been a challenge for us, not without its failures throughout the last 2 years, but like we're getting there. And that like retail experience for us, it's not about the size of the store or anything else. Like it's really about like what we're able to deliver from that really small footprint.
Yeah, and so Emily and Mark, I want to know a little bit more of like having the D2C channel, wholesale channel, and the brand discovery aspect of any trends you're seeing around that. Mark.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Well, I think looking back at the time that we made the decision to close the restaurant. So the restaurant was in Union Square. We served about 1,200 covers a day. So it was a pretty busy restaurant. And it was for a lot of people, their first introduction to the brand. And in April, May, June of 2020, it seemed like so obvious that no one would ever go to a restaurant again and that we should close it. And it's in retrospect, I think it was the right decision generally, but not having that 4 walls of experience has really been tough, because there's very little that you can do, I think, online, especially spending effectively and efficiently to introduce people to your brand, especially a food thing that is visceral and memorable, right? So we've redoubled down an investment in merchandising and in-store demos and displays and partnerships in-store, right? So when people are actually shopping, they see it in a special way. But also we've spent a lot more time figuring out how do we have a display or a partnership in food service. So in hospitality brands that we trust. And I spent prior to Hue, I was with a business that started a company that also sold a lot into food service. And I think at the time, even that channel then, this is like 2010 through 17, was confusing. How do you sell to restaurants and hotels, and how do you control your brand image there? And I think that was also a time where people said DTC is the only future, right? And this silly selling things to wholesale makes no sense. And I think we've come full circle where it's all part of the omni-channel experience that you have to have with the consumer, because they expect to see you in stores when they want it. And if they're not in the store, they also want to be able to get it in 2 hours. And if they're not home in 2 hours, they want to get it the next day, right? They want to schedule it, and they want to taste it first, and they want to see it, and they want to try it, and they want to know that someone they know has had it. And so you just can't do it through one channel or 2 or 3. And finding these ways to effectively partner within a 4-wall box, even if it's not your own, I think is crucial.
Emily,
Yeah, I mean, that's so well said.
Yeah.
We launched in 2020 during COVID, and so I think for us, obviously, it's no secret that really unlocked a lot of acceleration behind consumer behavior and buying things online that you never normally would have bought online, because you were like buying everything online. And so, but we're a few years out, and I think to your point, people are like, no, I'll order online, but I want it like right away, and I want to be able to taste it and have that full experience. So I would love to come back in a year and answer this, because we are just going into wholesale in a major way. We closed our Series A about 6 weeks ago, and we are really expanding. We're, so I think for us, we're really looking at this year as a huge learning opportunity. I feel like we know our growth is going to come from offline, but we have a beautiful online community that we will continue to grow and see where that goes. It's always going to be a huge part of our business. Trend-wise, I really think for us, unlocking the attribution behind it, because I don't care where people are buying it. I want to be where they are when they're thinking about us. and I want to understand what's driving them there. So that's the dream for us.
Awesome. Well, lightning round final question. Just a couple word answer. What is your best prediction for your own category, business, consumer, D2C in general for 2023? Like, very short answer.
High growth.
Okay, cool. High growth.
Retention and customer engagement.
Amazing. Any others?
We will figure out how to crack the commercialization code of TikTok.
Cool.
It will not just be.
That's a good one.
It will not just be awareness.
That's
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
I was about to say, yeah. I think for me, it's going to be finding areas to invest in a post-cookie, simple, paid online paid world. We started with retail, and there's lots more on the way. So.
Cool. Great. Well, thank you all. This was great.
Thanks.